She secretly dated Redd Foxx behind closed doors, and for years, nobody knew the reason why. Now, the truth is finally coming to light, revealing a story full of surprises, secrecy, and the hidden pressures they both faced. Stick around, because what happened between Nancy Kulp and Redd Foxx is far more fascinating than anyone expected. In the golden age of television, two stars shone brightly. Nancy Kulp, the poised and witty secretary from the Beverly Hillbillies, and Redd Foxx, the brash, groundbreaking comedian of Sanford and Son. On the surface, they seemed worlds apart. Kulp with a refined demeanor, and Foxx with his raw comedic edge. Yet, whispers from Hollywood's corridors suggest a deeper, more personal connection between them, one that remained concealed from the public eye. Nancy Kulp, known for her role as Miss Jane Hathaway, was a woman of intellect and discretion. Her private life was just that, private. She once hinted at her personal preferences in an interview, choosing her words carefully to maintain her privacy. Redd Foxx, born John Elroy Sanford, was a trailblazer in comedy, unafraid to push boundaries. His life was an open book, filled with highs and lows, marriages and controversies. Despite their contrasting personas, both Kulp and Foxx navigated the complexities of fame in their unique ways. Could their paths have crossed in more intimate settings than the public ever knew? The entertainment world is rife with hidden stories, and this might just be one of them. Nancy Kulp became a household name in the 1960s, thanks to her role as Miss Jane Hathaway on the Beverly Hillbillies. Her portrayal of the no-nonsense secretary with a soft spot for Jethro brought her widespread fame. But Kulp herself remained somewhat of a mystery. While the public loved the quirky, bookish character, Nancy was far more complex than her on-screen persona. Born in 1921 in Pennsylvania, Kulp was a highly educated woman. She earned a degree in journalism and even served in the U.S. Naval Reserve during World War II. After the war, she ventured into acting, and while she never achieved the superstar status of her peers, her work was consistently respected. Her off-screen life, however, was a topic she rarely discussed. She never married, and her reserved nature only fueled speculation about her personal affairs. In the later years of her career, Kulp surprised many by stepping into politics. She ran for Congress in Pennsylvania in 1984, openly identifying as a Democrat in a conservative district. It was a bold move that showcased her willingness to defy expectations. Despite her loss, the campaign solidified her legacy as more than just a sitcom actress. What makes Kulp so fascinating is how little is known about her personal relationships. In an era when Hollywood stars often live their love lives in the headlines, Nancy's remained conspicuously absent, and that silence, it only adds fuel to the rumors, especially the one involving a certain Redd Foxx. If Nancy Kulp was a picture of discretion, Redd Foxx was a complete opposite. Known for his uncensored comedy and magnetic stage presence, Foxx built a career on pushing boundaries, and he didn't hold back in his personal life either. As the star of Sanford and Son, he brought raw humor and a kind of authenticity to television that was rare at the time. But behind that laugh-out-loud exterior was a man whose life was anything but simple. Born John Elroy Sanford in 1922, Foxx grew up in poverty on Chicago's South Side. He got his start in nightclubs, developing a reputation for being raunchy and revolutionary in equal measure. Long before he became a television staple, he was already a legend in the underground comedy scene. His blue material was too controversial for TV for years, but once the networks caught up, he became an overnight sensation. Foxx's personal life was tumultuous and highly public. He was married 4 times, often making headlines for his rocky relationships and lavish spending habits. He loved attention, he lived big, and he wasn't afraid of scandal. In fact, he thrived on it. But despite his openness, there were still moments in relationships that didn't make it into the tabloids. Some say that's where Nancy Kulp comes in. The idea that someone as explosive as Foxx could have had a quiet, secret relationship with someone as reserved as Kulp seems unlikely. But that's exactly what makes a rumor so irresistible. In Hollywood, the most shocking stories often start with nothing more than a whisper. For years, the idea that Nancy Kulp and Redd Foxx had a secret relationship existed only in the background noise of entertainment gossip. Never confirmed, rarely even acknowledged. But for some insiders, the rumor never quite went away. It wasn't a tabloid headline or a red carpet confession. It was something passed along quietly, something people only mentioned when the cameras were off. Some say it started during the 1970s, when both stars were at the peak of their careers. Though they never worked on a major project together, both were part of the same entertainment circuit: award shows, talk shows, charity events, and the private gatherings where celebrities let their guard down. In those circles, unexpected friendships, and sometimes more, often blossom away from public scrutiny. The rumor picked up steam when an old comedy writer claimed in a behind-the-scenes memoir that Kulp and Foxx had been closer than anyone realized. He didn't name dates, and he didn't provide proof, but the quote was enough to reignite interest in the idea. Fans and conspiracy-minded YouTubers started digging, looking for photos, interviews, or offhand remarks that could confirm the story. So far, there's no solid evidence, no photos, no love letters, no tell-all interviews. But Hollywood thrives on what-ifs. And in this case, the silence surrounding the rumor might be the most telling detail of all. If Nancy Kulp and Redd Foxx truly had a relationship, the most pressing question isn't just if it happened. It's why they would have gone to such lengths to keep it hidden. The answer may lie in the cultural climate of the time and in the carefully managed public images of both stars. In the mid-20th century, Hollywood was still shaped by rigid social norms and racial biases. Interracial relationships, though not unheard of, were still considered taboo in many parts of the country, and especially under the scrutiny of public life. For a white woman like Kulp and a black man like Foxx, being romantically linked in public could have meant career suicide. Networks, sponsors, and audiences weren't always as open-minded as they liked to pretend. Kulp was also a fiercely private person. She never married and rarely spoke about her personal relationships in interviews. Some speculated about her sexuality, while others simply accepted that she preferred her independence. Either way, she wasn't one to invite public speculation. If she did have a relationship with Foxx, it would have gone directly against her instinct to avoid the spotlight. Foxx, while far more open about his personal life, was also navigating a career that constantly walked a fine line with public acceptance. Known for his unapologetic style, he might have chosen to protect Kulp or himself by keeping something so unexpected out of view. It raises the stakes of the rumor entirely. If they really cared for each other, silence might have been the only option. At first glance, it's hard to imagine Nancy Kulp and Redd Foxx even being in the same room, let alone building a personal bond. Their on-screen worlds couldn't have been more different. The Beverly Hillbillies was a rural slapstick comedy with wholesome undertones, while Sanford and Son was gritty, urban, and often edged toward controversy. But behind the cameras, Hollywood is much smaller than it seems. During the 1970s and early 1980s, both Kulp and Foxx frequented the same studio lots, network events, and industry mixers. NBC, CBS, and other major networks often hosted press parties and internal galas where stars from different shows mingled freely. It's here, outside the glare of stage lights, that casual conversations could lead to quiet connections. Industry insiders have pointed out that both actors were known for being surprisingly different off-screen than the characters they played. Kulp was witty, politically sharp, and more daring than her on-screen persona. Foxx, for all his bravado, was deeply thoughtful and surprisingly private in his inner circles. According to a stagehand who worked across multiple sets, they didn't run in the same crowd publicly, but you'd be surprised how many friendships formed after rap. There's also speculation that the pair shared mutual friends in the comedy and television world, particularly among writers and producers who floated between shows. If there was a relationship, those behind-the-scenes environments would have made it not only possible, but easy to hide. In the entertainment industry, privacy isn't just personal, it's political. And for Nancy Kulp and Redd Foxx, protecting their reputations might have been the ultimate reason for keeping any potential relationship out of the public eye. In a time before social media and instant tabloid leaks, stars could still control what the public saw, but it took strategy. And in some cases, silence was the safest move of all. For Nancy Kulp, her public image was closely tied to her intelligence, professionalism, and subtle charm. She wasn't a scandalous figure, and she made sure to keep it that way. During her congressional run in the 1980s, her campaign was deeply focused on integrity and progressive values. Being linked to someone as controversial as Redd Foxx might have drawn criticism, or worse, distraction, from her message. Even earlier in her acting career, any romantic involvement that didn't match the respectable mold could have opened her up to damaging gossip. Foxx had his own reasons to keep things discreet. Though he was often outspoken, he knew the business side of Hollywood better than most. He'd already faced backlash for his stand-up routines, legal battles with producers, and his tumultuous marriages. Starting another public relationship, especially one with someone as outside his usual type as Nancy Kulp, might have sparked uncomfortable questions he didn't want to answer. Together, they were two professionals navigating a rigid, judgmental system. If something real existed between them, protecting it from a noise may have been the only way to keep it from being torn apart. Though neither Nancy Kulp nor Redd Foxx ever confirmed a relationship, fans and pop culture sleuths have pointed to scattered moments, brief interviews, cryptic comments, and offhand remarks that they believe hint at something more than just a distant professional acquaintance. When pieced together, these moments form a subtle pattern that fuels the speculation even decades later. Nancy Kulp once gave a radio interview in the early 1980s where she was asked about her romantic life. She replied with a chuckle, saying, "I've had my share of surprises, but some things are better left off the record." It was a vague comment, but those who believe in the Fox connection point to that moment as one where she nearly acknowledged something deeper. She was known for being carefully worded, so even a slightly evasive answer stood out. Redd Foxx, for his part, often used humor to deflect personal questions. In one television appearance, he was asked to name a surprising friendship in his life. He grinned and said, "Some of my favorite people you'd never guess and I'd never tell." The audience laughed, but he didn't elaborate. Again, vague, yet oddly suggestive. There are also rare photos of both actors attending the same charity event in Los Angeles in the late 70s. They weren't photographed together, but attendees later recalled they left the venue around the same time. Coincidence? Maybe. But to believers, these small clues point to a bigger story that's just beneath the surface. Rumors have a way of resurfacing when the timing is just right, and the story of Nancy Kulp and Redd Foxx's supposed secret relationship is no exception. For decades, this whisper floated quietly in the background, largely unnoticed by mainstream audiences. But in recent years, curiosity has spiked, thanks in part to the internet, social media, and YouTube's obsession with uncovering hidden celebrity stories. The passing of time can both clarify and complicate legends. As fans sift through archives, interviews, and old footage, they look for anything that sheds light on what really happened behind scenes. New documentaries and biographical retrospectives often spark fresh interest in old rumors, turning whispers into full-blown discussions. Another factor is the growing recognition of Nancy Kulp beyond her sitcom role. More people today appreciate her as a trailblazing woman who defied Hollywood norms. So the idea that she might have had a secret connection with a controversial figure like Redd Foxx adds a layer of complexity to her legacy. Finally, the internet gives a voice to fans who want to dig deeper into celebrity lives without the filters of traditional media. Forums and fan groups debate, share theories, and keep the rumor alive. Whether it's fact or fiction, the story's revival shows how powerful mystery and secrecy remain in our fascination with Hollywood's past. So, what is the secret story, true or not? Tell us about Nancy Kulp, Redd Foxx, and the world they lived in. Beyond the gossip and speculation, it highlights how much of celebrity life remains hidden beneath the surface. It reminds us that stars are people with complex lives, often shaped by forces bigger than themselves. Nancy Kulp's reserved nature and Redd Foxx's boldness created a fascinating contrast, but perhaps also a shared understanding of the pressures fame brings. Whether or not they dated, their story, real or imagined, raises questions about Ray's privacy and image in Hollywood's past. It challenges us to consider how much we truly know about public figures, and how easily stories can be shaped by rumor and silence. In the end, maybe the real reason the secret hasn't come out isn't because it's scandalous, but because it's human. It's a reminder that behind every headline and role, there's nuance, complexity, and stories left untold. So, before you take rumors at face value, think about the lies behind them, and remember that sometimes what's not said can be just as powerful as what is. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed uncovering the secret story, be sure to like the video and subscribe for more surprising celebrity truths. See you next time.